Swim check 1, 2. Bike check 1, 2. Run check 1, 2. I think we're ready. Let's try this. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, a podcast where we explore the sport of triathlon from a variety of perspectives to help beginner triathletes on their journey. I am your host, Mashonda Shines. Well, welcome back to another edition of Try Beginner's Luck. When the little sound came on to said recording in progress, I think I froze. And it's only been 3.5 months, maybe 4, since we last had a podcast episode with Logan Cunningham. And just a little quick fun fact, Logan did have her fight and she had a knockout. Yes, I was there, so it was so exciting. And also Logan got married like 2 weeks ago. So congratulations to Logan, who's a fellow triathlete and she closed out our season before I took a little bit of summer break. Well, we're well into fall, and usually I will have started by now. But the one thing that I shared a lot about last season was hitting the reset and being okay to start over. And y'all, I did that. It was so invigorating to do sprints again. And I actually surprised myself with how much time I had left over and just had time to do life. And it was fantastic. But I also realized why this podcast is also needed. Because typically sprint is the introductory distance. And there were so many things that I saw beginners doing and realized, Mashonda, there is still a place for you here in this space. So I can't wait to share a lot of that as we continue to move on. And I just came off one of the most professional highs of my career as an announcer. And I have to share it with my family, my tri squad, I should say, because it's so important for me to share and because I'm really proud of myself. Okay. So about a week ago, or less than a week ago, 5 days ago to be exact, I had the opportunity of joining the Marine Corps marathon announcing team. What? Yeah, y'all see this? Yes, I'm wearing it. But what's so cool about it is the full circle moment. In 2015, I did Marine Corps just to say, I just want to do a marathon. Didn't really think the long distance thing was my jam. And 10 years later, I joined the team. And it was so cool because I got to be the MCM enforcer. And as the race director calls me, the velvet enforcer. Like that touch, I had a smooth way of telling people to get out the way, move. You can fit on the rest of the words if you know a little ludicrous. Well, it was so great to see so many of my teammates who ran Marine Corps, crew members from different run clubs. And it just was an honor to be there and to just be a part of that team because who knew? Now I know. Marine Corps is the third largest marathon in North America, or definitely the United States, and the largest endurance event in the world that does not have prize money attached to it. So people literally do Marine Corps because it is the people's marathon and they do it for purpose over prestige. That's what it is. And you know who else does things for purpose over prestige? Great segue. I know I'm good at this. Is my guest that I get to bring today. When I tell you the first time I met them was in Lake Placid in 2022. And we had to meet from a distance because that was still in the COVID timeframe. And they actually was sick at the time, but was so kind. They were lifting boxes, making things happen. And then we met again when I did something with their company. And he picked me up from the train station. We hung out and it was just so cool. And I realized, I said, wow, this person really does care about community. But most importantly, ensuring people are safe, that they have what they need, and they are mission minded. Well, today I'm welcomed by the COO of Varlo, a brand where performance gear meets purpose. Ed is leading the way of operational strategy. He is a triathlete and endurance sports advocate, He also was a very high-powered attorney. hmm But he took the leap into the multi-sport lifestyle and business world. And we will dig into that mindset that he had to have that helps to drive the operations and how, as one of the co-founders of Varlo, that has worked in his favor. But he's also the board chair of Rails to Trails Conservancy. And he is one of the nicest, kindest, compassionate humans you will meet on this side of heaven. How about that? Okay. So without further ado, I am ecstatic to welcome and to restart this season with Mr. Ed Chang. Ed, welcome to Try Beginner's Luck. How you doing?
Oh my goodness, I'm doing great, Mashonda. That was a very kind intro there. So I'm very heartwarmed to be here. So excited. And yeah, this behind me is the backdrop of Lake Placid at the top of Whiteface Mountain. So I don't know, that might have been no, that was before COVID. So this is around 2020, I think, from this photo. So right before we met.
Wow. And who knew? Because I don't know what it looks like from that vantage point above the mountains or from a mountain peak it looks like. But I'm glad that that's what is connecting us today and what's behind you right now.
Absolutely, still one of my favorite places on Earth.
Isn't it beautiful, peaceful, gorgeous?
It's just the best. I've gone there. I did my first Ironman up there in 2016 and pretty much gone up almost every year to visit, either to volunteer or cheer, work, or just have some R&R time up there. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Speaking of the R&R, it's your favorite place. You go there to race, or you have been there to race, to volunteer, to get away, or just because. How important is that in today's the times that we're living in to make sure that we're filling up our cups?
It's really important. I have to say, I probably don't do it enough especially since starting at Varlo, but taking that time away, the space from work, from your profession, is so important just to clear the mind, to reset and gain new inspirations. So definitely, that's R&R time is a necessity. The last couple of years, I probably have not done it enough. Hoping to be a little bit better about it, a little more mindful. But yes, and it's an important thing for sure, and it's kind of behind a lot of the work I do, just on the nonprofit side as well.
Well, speaking about you haven't had a chance to do a lot of it since starting with Varlo, but you come from what can be seen from the outside looking in as a very stressful work environment, especially as a partner at a law firm, right? So, how do you correlate being a partner at a law firm to now being the COO and co-founder at Varlo? And what are the similarities in terms of work, which could prevent you from taking the R&R that you need?
Yeah, I think in terms of the work, I oftentimes tell people it feels very similar between being a lawyer and just the work I do now. It's a lot of customer or client interactions. I manage the custom side of the business, so talking with teams, coaches, clubs, organizations all the time about their gear, their events, working with them on designs and managing our team on that side as well. So it's a lot of interactions, a lot of people skills, a lot of writing, communication skills. And I think that time as being a lawyer, just having clear communication, setting expectations up front. It's quite similar in that fashion. What I don't miss is dealing with I would say difficult attorneys on the other side, right? I always enjoyed dealing with our clients, even dealing with my coworkers, but I was in the litigation space, so the job of the other side is to make your life difficult, which is fine. I can do the same thing, but it's always seemed contrary to my I guess my own personal personality, I shall we say. So it was difficult because I was always trying to be something that I probably was not at heart. I could litigate, I could argue and do it well, but in my nature of things, it's almost similar to being an introvert versus extrovert. If you're an introvert, people always say it takes a lot of work to have those conversations, kind of be bubbly, be outward going, and it takes a lot out of you. But from my perspective, I spent probably 15, 20 years doing something that was like extraordinarily contrary to my own personality. So from that aspect, I would say being a Varlo, I don't feel the need to take those vacations to take that time away, but still there is different stresses as being, you know, a co-founder and part of a startup, a young business that's growing. So different stresses. So there are definitely stresses. But I would say it's overall less going against the grain of my inner nature, if that makes sense.
Mm. I totally see that. And I also understand the different stressors and why you don't feel like you need to take as many vacations because you're doing something that you love. And it is true when you do things that you love, it doesn't feel like work, although it is. At some point, you'd be like, okay, in the 15th hour, okay, I've done this, I get it. But it gives you a different level of endurance, right? You don't, the time passes by a lot more quicker because you're doing what you love. And I want to kind of segue a little bit into, because you mentioned the nonprofit, and that's something that I know is near and dear to your heart is, when you're serving on nonprofits and nonprofit boards. And so, how has that passion for nonprofits helped to even drive what you do with Varlo?
Yeah, great question. I mean, the nonprofit is actually what originally led me to Varlo. There's a little bit of a backstory there. I don't know how much we'll get into it, but you know, for me, I got into nonprofits from triathlon. You know, try beginner's luck is kind of along the way. Um, After completing my first, I mentioned 2016 Ironman, I trained for a lot of that. Being a triathlete, not super comfortable on roads. I trained for a lot of it on I'm from the Philadelphia area, so the Schuylkill River Trail is a well-known trail. Well known, it's a long trail, it runs from Philadelphia, and you can ride all the way out to the western suburbs. You can link to Valley Forge Park, link to other roads out in the suburbs. So I did a lot of riding back and forth on the trail, and it's a safe place to ride. There's no cars, obviously. You have to be careful of runners and walkers and pedestrians. But it's a safe place away from car traffic. And you'll see many a triathlete riding there on that trail because it is safe. It's relatively straight. So I spent a lot of time on those trails. And after completing my Ironman, I had a lot of time on my hands, and I wanted to give back, and was looking for to see how I can find a nonprofit to join and support. And I came across the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia, which is the local advocacy group. It's been, I think, it's a 50-year-old advocacy group based in Philadelphia, and they advocate for bike lanes, trail development, which is what initially led to me being interested in the organization. They also lead Adult Learn to Ride for the city of Philadelphia. They work on with the Indigo Bike Program, which is the city bike program, to make sure that those bike portals are equitably located in all communities across the city. And they also have a youth cycling program that works with Philadelphia youths aged 12 to 18 and provides free bikes, free coaching. It's an after-school program twice a week, also on the weekends. Teaches kids how to ride road bikes, mountain bikes, gravel, and then has programming throughout the summer, along with leadership and a college scholarship program. So all that great stuff. I came upon it through triathlon. I knew a fellow board member who was a triathlete also, and also had at the time he owned a indoor cycling kind of studio. So I was cycling there in my training. So I found Bicycle Coalition board to join and give back. Is That's kind of selfish reasons. I mean, not nonprofits. You know, people are drawn to the cause because it's something that strikes home to them. But at the end of the day, I joined because I appreciated the trails that I was riding on to train, and wanted to see how I can help make more of them. So that's what drew me to the coalition. Long story forward, I was on the board for a number of years, and during a Vision Zero event, which we hold every year, which gathers officials, engineers together to talk about best practices for traffic safety, reduction of traffic violence. I had met Saj Jabot, the founder CEO of Varlo, and he had come to the event kind of to meet me because he had heard he was starting this company Varlo, and had heard I was, you know, well connected to the cycling and triathlon community, and that I was a person to meet. So he actually kind of found me through that event. We chatted and kind of went from there. But a long story short, it all came from triathlon. So that's the cool part.
As they would say, triathlon eats. It is that sport, and people need to recognize that. Yes. But that's so cool that Saj came to meet you and you had equally heard about Saj. And so it was always, I guess, destined for you all to be together and to be on this journey together. So, Bicycling Coalition, that's the one I remember you talking a lot about, which is rightfully so because it's like your first, it's like your baby that you were able to be a part of. And so now you're a part of a larger nonprofit that's Rails to Trails Conservancy.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. So that also came apart. I'm serving on both boards currently. I'm chair of the board. I was chair of the board of the Bicycle Coalition for a number of years. I stepped down, and I'm still serving on that board. But I took the board position of Rails to Trails about a year and a half ago. But yeah, Rails to Trails is kind of it's all tied together. The Bicycle Coalition, Rails to Trails is the national. You can view it as like a national overlay. They are the national advocacy organization for the uh, to help communities build trails. So many of the trails that you see across the nation, 25,000 miles across the country, are former railway lines that were abandoned and converted to trails. It kind of ties into the legal stuff. You get a little wonky, but under the law, if you think about your American history, the railway barons, people just snatching up land, building railroads, competing railway lines in the early 1900s. Um, those railway lines were oftentimes acquired under what they call a property easement. So the railways didn't own the property; they basically had the right to use the property for a railway line. If the railway would be abandoned, the property would then revert back to the adjoining property owners, and then you would lose this public right of way. Rails and Trails was the first organization that they campaigned to pass a law that allowed for what they call rail banking. So basically, if a railway, Conrail or whatever announces, "Hey, we're going to announce the abandonment of this rail," the local officials can raise their hands and say, "Hey, we want to look into building a trail there." And then the railway line will be torn up. You have a beautiful flat surface. It's already pretty much built for a trail. You just got to lay down the pavement, and you have a ready-made trail there that's banked. So technically, it can revert back to the railway line if the railway so chooses. Which is that you're in DC, Mashonda, so you'll know. In Bethesda, you have the Capitol Crescent Trail. That was a
Yeah.
former railway line. It was a trail. It's a beautiful trail, runs from Bethesda to DC. But the metro authority wanted to build a new railway line. I think it's the Pink Line or something like that. But basically, that's a portion of that trail was banked, and now they're going to tear that trail up and then rebuild a metro line there. And had it not been banked, that property would have been lost forever. They wouldn't be able to build a new metro line. So fascinating. Gets into that wonky area of the law, which I come from. But so again, kind of a great organization. But again, kind of gets to that what you're saying about taking that R&R time. We believe that trails provide that outdoor space for everyone to get outside, clear their mind, obviously get physical fitness, mental wellness. And a big part of what we do is also the equitable act, a part of it, creating equity in communities and connecting them by trails, connecting communities via trails that have maybe been traditionally cut off from portions of different urban areas. You see, redlining, and there's a lot of history there where certain minority communities were cut off from access deliberately, either through highways, through roadway systems or other methods. But we're working now to reconnect those communities back to the kind of central areas and allow cities, regions to flow more freely and equitably.
Mm. Which is also needed. I think one of the things or the themes of this kind of part B, part two season is more behind the scenes of people who make it happen so that we can do what we do in love and try. And I think the Rails to Trails Conservancy, as well as the Bicycle Coalition, help to reduce risk. It's beginner friendly. In terms of trails, the safety part of it is so huge. The mental aspect of it, being able to go out and see, beautiful greenery, depending on where you go. I'm a frequent user of the Capitol Crescent Trail. Um, and a lot of the trails in the DC area, WOND, is really big. Some places like when I go down to Atlanta and they now have the big trail that circles the city. Do you know what I'm talking about? I know the name of it, but it escapes me at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know that one, but I've heard of I've heard of that. Yeah.
Is it I don't want to get it wrong, and I don't want any of my friends to be like, "What? You don't remember?" Like, no, I don't. But they have the Silver Comet Trail is just one of them. It's like a whole system where they connect. It's like trails upon trails where they connect, and I honestly was a little envious that when I was living there and I remember it being built, and now that it's finished, the riders have such amazing, safe trails to ride. And for miles, more than 100 miles of just trail. And I'm like, we should have that in the DC area. I mean, we do have a trail, but not like that interconnectedness. And so what you're doing is so necessary because the roads are getting dangerous. Let's just call a spade a spade. It is getting dangerous, and drivers aren't paying attention, which makes it harder to really truly train in a safe environment. So thank you for all that you do and for helping us to keep it safe. So I want to transition, thinking about the reason why you're so passionate about trails is because that's where you got to spend a lot of your time. Let's talk about entering sport. How did you enter into sport? And let's go all the way back to your very first race.
Oh, geez, very first race,
Oh,
very first
yeah, we're taking it back.
triathlon race or like race,
You said what race?
triathlon race or just like race in general.
Well, first triathlon race. Let's, keep it podcast specific.
Okay, I got you. No, first, I mean, I ran a little cross country in high school, nothing serious, just my freshman and sophomore year. But really enjoyed running. But after that, didn't do too much, just recreational stuff. Got back more into it. I think when really it was when we were approaching our 30s, my wife, Bonnie, she said we had to get fit for 30. And we were still 30 seemed like you were really old at that time, getting old. So we started training for some 5Ks, and I think ultimately it was a big. I think we maybe jumped right into. There used to be another nonprofit. Oh, there's still a current nonprofit. It's called Back on My Feet in Philadelphia. I think they're nationwide. They help homeless people get back on their feet through running. But originally it started in the Philadelphia area, and they had a 24-hour relay race around the Kelly Drive, Martin Luther King Boulevard loop. So it's 8.4 mile, 8.2 mile loop. So it's a 24-hour relay race. And my wife started training. We started training for that, and that was our first big, just the one loop, not the whole 24-hour race, but one loop of it at midnight. They had a midnight run. People dressed up in lights, and it was fun running in the dark, pitch black, tripping over roots. But that was our first kind of endurance race, shall we say. I worked my way up to kind of marathon racing. I went through different Philly marathons, the Broad Street Run, all that stuff. First marathon was Marine Corps Marathon 2011. So I'm not that far behind you. We were kind of little parallel paths there. Congrats on the announcement gig, though, by the way. That's amazing.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, thank you.
It's,
Okay.
we had so many friends and organizations that we work with run that, including the Marine Recon Foundation. You might have seen them. They had a big crew there. We did their jerseys for them. But Marine Corps Marathon was my first marathon. I ran it with my high school buddy who was a Marine. Awesome event, very inspirational. You see people carrying like full gear, full packs. You see like firefighters in full oxygen tanks running the marathon with a huge flag. It's crazy. But and so inspirational. But did that and kind of was looking for the next thing. And I was like, I'd seen the kind of NBC coverage on Ironman Kona, and I was like, that sounds pretty cool, like triathlon. I was like, let me try to give it a shot, and went into the pool. Try to swim a little. I knew how to swim and not drown, but not do laps. And so I started kind of slowly learning and work towards my first a race, which is a sprint race out here where I live in the western suburbs. It was the Upper Mainline YMCA triathlon. A lot of people out here in the Philly area know it because it's an outdoor 50-meter pool, which is awesome. So 400, I think 450-meter snake swim, and then a 12-mile bike around the kind of hilly roads around here, and then a 5K run. It was a really beautiful race. They stopped doing it a couple years back, unfortunately, but it was my first triathlon race. I felt like I'd swum kind of indoors, like in a 25-yard pool, but I'd never been in a 50 meter, so it felt like the ocean. So I was out there and people swimming on top of each other, and I felt like I was just it seemed like it would never get to that other wall. So that was probably the worst part was definitely the swim. I felt like I was going to drown, but survived, and I just loved being on the bike and just on the run. I enjoyed it as well, and it just had a blast. I like just being on a TT bike. That was actually my first road bike. I got a Fuji TT bike. I'd had mountain bikes, but I'd never ridden on a road bike, never done clip-ins. So had a good friend who taught me all the ropes, and we did, learned how to ride and kind of started it from there. It was just such a blast.
Hmm. Oh, the good old 50-meter pool. I honestly think if you're not used to swimming, and there are not many 50-meter pools around, but it is a good, I would say that's a good race opportunity because the 25-meter is something that people are so used to. But that 50-meter hit different, especially when you're like, well, that should be there, but it's not, right? So I can see how you could think that you are, close to drowning, even though you might not be. But yeah, no, as a swimmer, 25, the 50-meter pool is always different, but it's good. I think as I think about it, it could be good for open water swimming to keep you going longer than what you're used to so that you're not touching the wall. But well, I'm so glad that you survived it and you kept going. Did you have any moments of in your first race where you were just like, this is so wild and weird. I don't know if I want to keep going, although you did. But did you have any moments like that?
Oh, definitely not 50 feet of pool. I was like, that's like what you said. It's a long ways, and I didn't. There's no way to. I don't think I was a member there. Or there was that pool wasn't open. It was an April swim, so you don't have a chance to. I think I was training at that YMCA, but that pool, the outdoor pool, was not yet open when they have the race. It's a very early season race for us. So I had not yet swum in it, even though I had been training at that Y in their 25-yard indoor pool. So I would say definitely at moments, maybe towards in the middle of that swim, I was definitely questioning life decisions, and that was definitely um, a lot. There's a lot of swimming moments, because that was my the newest aspect of my the discipline. Um, I had a lot of trouble open water swimming as well, just panic attacks, and took a lot of time and training to kind of get through that and figure that out. And I didn't really figure that out until I did my first sprint outdoor race at Philly Tri. So definitely the swimming aspect.
Mm. You said something that was key that I know that a lot of people, if they're not familiar with swimming, struggle with. And that's the panic attacks and how it took you time. And some people don't even give themselves the time to get through that. What were some of the things that you did that helped you get through panic attacks in swimming? Because they can happen at any moment. Like oops, even if you're a comfortable swimmer, panic attacks can happen in the water depending on what may be happening around you. But for a person who may not be as comfortable swimming, what were some of those techniques that you used to help yourself calm yourself down and get over it?
Yeah, we've had some of our even our Varlo pros have told us, and this is public, it's not a secret, they've had panic attacks. So yeah, what you say is absolutely true. It's not just, I wouldn't say for beginners, oftentimes I was embarrassed about it. There's a number of open water swim venues in our Philadelphia areas where I tried to practice as much as I could. Mid-Atlantic Multisport, they have a Marsh Creek swim. So it's an open water swim. Feels like a long way. So I try to go to as many open water swim practices as I could. And I remember when I went to Mid-Atlantic Multisport, they're one of the coaching groups out here in Philadelphia that hold an open water swim in Doylestown area. And that open water swim's like you're kind of, it feels like you're out in the middle of nowhere. The kind of the banks are far away. I couldn't get to the first buoy. Like literally, it was probably maybe 100 yards. I couldn't get out. Like from the shoreline to the buoy, I couldn't even get there without feeling that kind of compression in my lungs. And I went to a lot of different swim practices, and it wasn't until I then the race came up on me, like where I'd signed up for the Philly Triathlon. That's in the Schuylkill River at the time when they were running it. And I still wasn't really over it. I'd gotten the pool swimming down, but I still felt it in that first segment, and I just pretty much just muscled through it and kind of forced my way through it and told myself that I could do it. What I found during that race, and I just really was just it probably wasn't the smartest thing because I still wasn't over the open water panic attack, so it definitely wasn't the safest. But I mean, I signed up for it, I'm going to do it, and I sure enough I had a panic attack, in the first whatever 50 meters or whatever. And what I found at the time is just like I was holding my breath, and this is what I tell new people all the time. It's like what you don't realize, you're pool swimming, you're kind of blowing bubbles. You can see the bubbles, and then you blow underwater and inhale. But I was holding my breath the whole time in open water because it's dark, it's scary, and then by the time you're kind of breathing, you're like I couldn't even breathe or inhale or exhale when I was trying to breathe because I was just so everything was so caught up in my chest and holding it. And what I did during that race was I literally was yelling underwater. I was like in the water, like making a noise. Because at the first I couldn't even go It was like my voice was caught in my throat. And I was like, I'm just gonna scream underwater. And I couldn't even scream because I was like, how that's how like caught you are, right? Eventually I was like, and then you kind of for me, I just went ooh underwater. I can hear my voice and then breathe, ooh, so I'm out, exhaling out. And then eventually you can just blow and just like bubbles, right? So I kind of that's how I made my way through. And for the first several races, I would literally have to start. I'll be like, ah, just screaming underwater, just like as you're going, just like screaming, because then I know I'm exhaling. Then obviously you're screaming, and then kind of you turn your head, then you can inhale that air. And then as I get into it, I go with an ooh, and then kind of at least orally, because otherwise you don't even know you're holding your breath because everything's dark, you don't see bubbles, and you're like, why can't I breathe? It's like because you're so clenched up that you're holding your breath.
Hence why they say relax. That is a good tip for beginners who are a little bit more afraid of open water and breathe and hum, yell, scream. So many different tactics in there that I really appreciate. So you do Philly Try Rock. This had to be like circa 2013, 2014, 15, because that was the last year. And then what made you say, "Hey, 2016, I'm going to Placid. Like I'm going to keep going." What was your progression? Take us through that.
Like I'm very methodical, so it's similar to running. I did a sprint. Actually, technically, even though I made it through the water that first sprint, I DNF because I got multiple flats on the race
Mm,
course. At the time, I'm gonna blame my tires because I feel like all these bikes used to come with these Continental, not the nice GP 5000s, but there was this one particular. It was a very thin tire. People get flats all the time on it, but I got multiple flats. I actually carried two tubes. I was one of those triathletes that had all these like extras, right? I had two tubes, and I changed. I got a flat, changed it out, and made it flat again. And now I know because I probably had glass, and I didn't, do the whole check the tire for glass. I probably had the same piece of glass that I didn't even get out and change it. So I had two flats, and I had to get wave someone down, and then ultimately, like, I think my wife got a phone call like from some random stranger, like that. Tina, she probably had a panic attack. I know she had a panic attack getting strange phone calls while I'm in the middle of a race. But I went into the next day because at that time they did the sprint on Saturday and then the Olympic on Sunday. So I did the Olympic on Sunday, kind of back to back. Because I was like, I don't want to DNF my first race, so I'm going to do back to back. But progression wise, I did the sprints, did a couple Olympics, did a half. I think Syracuse 70.3 was my first half. Did a couple halves, and then I was like, I want to try that, go for the Ironman because that's kind of the ultimate goal for a lot of folks.
mm. Y- So you're right. It is the ultimate goal for a lot of folks. But one of the things that you mentioned to me, and it ties back into your experience, is the community. But before we go there, I'm hearing these questions that I want to go in. As you can see, flats happen. You mentioned the Continental 5,000. Is it 500 or 5,000?
The 5,000 are the good ones. Those are the good ones. There's a Continental that comes like the standard OEM tires on a lot of bikes, and everyone said they always. I told someone like, oh, I had these tires, like, oh, those always flat. They're very thin.
And Continental also has maybe like a little gator skin.
The gator skin, yeah.
So gator skins are good. The 5,000s are good. Once you've written on your tire, if you're coming in with factory tires, do yourself a favor after like a couple of 100 miles on there and just go ahead and get some better tires because you will save yourself a lot of time. And tires, when I realized that tires weren't as expensive as I thought they were, it's like, duh, why didn't you just do that the first time? Because sometimes a good tire is $50. And $50 versus a race in the grand scheme of things, $200 or $300, $50 is nothing. It's like small potatoes. So do yourself a favor and get your just get a good tire, and make sure you have tubes and things of that nature to have a kit on you. One of the things that you said that you wish you would have known more about is community. But to go from in the 3 year time period from a sprint to an Ironman full distance, a lot of people don't know about Ironman or to do an Ironman. You mentioned you didn't have a lot of community. So how did you form community so that it will encourage you to continue to try?
Yes, I was lucky. I had a really, really good one of my best friends locally, and he was a cyclist, and um, he taught me how to ride, clip in. Well, I knew how to ride a bike, but how to clip it and do all that stuff on the road bike. But we trained a lot together, so I didn't join like a club or a bigger team. I took some clinics. I mentioned Mid-Atlantic Multisport. I took their kind of clinic. They had a beginner, I think it was a triathletes learn to swim clinic. Literally, it was at that Upper Mainline YMCA. That was the clinic where I kind of learned a little bit about swim stroke. Met some more triathletes, kind of kept in touch with those folks, but I didn't really join like a team or club per se. 'Cause I just felt like at the time I wasn't, I don't know, it's good enough, right? I feel like if you join a club, you gotta be like, oh, you got to be good. You have to at least have a triathlon under your belt. Like I couldn't join a club and not having done a sprint or an Olympic. And Just in my mind, I didn't really understand um, what a club or team was about at the time. Even all the way up to Ironman, I did hire a coach, Jason Kildare from ETA Coaching, who unfortunately passed away in I think 2018 from cancer. But that's a whole nother story. But so I did hire an experienced coach to get me through the Ironman. There was a little bit of community there. There were some ETA coach athletes, but I would say I didn't, because I was lucky to have a training buddy, a training partner. I didn't, I didn't join a club or team until after 2016. But looking back, I think it definitely would have helped me progress my triathlon career. I don't know. It would have helped me progress, I think, quicker and perhaps feel a little bit more supported because, the swim part, I had to swim and run down because my buddy would do that, but he wasn't a swimmer. So that stuff was very kind of difficult, and I wanted to do it, and not say isolating, but you're having panic attacks on your own. You're like, oh, this kind of sucks. I don't know. I got to figure it out on my own, and ultimately did. But had I had a club or a team to support, I think it would have been a better experience for sure.
100%. I approve that message that you talked about. It's your message and I approve it because it's so true. You know how many times I hear people who are training by themselves who give up because they've gone through an experience by themselves versus having a community. And to your point, like the support is necessary. Yes, you have to do the work individually, but it's so necessary to have community surrounding you for support, to ask questions when you need to, so that you don't give up. And that to me explains a little bit more about your personality and why the Varlo community is so important, and how you guys have really, really, really developed that in such a way that people can either tap in for what they want to tap in for as much as they can absorb, or they can be where they are, but they still have community at races. And one of the things that I also noticed at races is you guys are cheering for everybody. Tell me about the Varlo community and how that has grown, and the importance of it, especially from your vantage point of not having as much community when you started, but yet could have used it to accelerate your triathlon career further, faster.
Yeah, so communities kind of it's behind the entire brand, and the mission, the stated mission of the brand is to empower all humans to conquer the goals of tomorrow. And we do that by the ultimate goal is to have everyone feel supported and seen in whatever their endeavors they seek to do. It could be their first 5K, it could be their first world championship. Um, but we endeavor to create a community that supports everyone. We have a brand ambassador community, Team Varlo, with hundreds of members nationally, internationally. Um, and this we have team welcome calls periodically, and at the beginning of every call, it's a given, it's a must that we repeat the mantras that the team stands for, that, we are they, further together. And we tell the team that, we don't ask that you podium or have a specific race time to join, but what we do ask and what we do expect of our community is to support one another. There should never be a situation where a team member, I would say a team Barlow member, but I would say almost anyone wearing Barlow as a brand, and we'll talk about that. There should never be a situation where two of those people just walk by without acknowledging one another. And the goal is like, hey, it's that feeling of support. It doesn't have to be like a full-on conversation. You don't have to tell your life story, but it's like, hey, good luck out there, right? And it goes to the overall mission of the brand, and I think it gives us that anyone wearing Barlow gives you that extra little superpower. Um, Out on the course, we believe the mental aspect is as important or more important than any kind of physical aspect, because you can do all the training, you can do all the aero testing you want, get everything dialed in. But when your mind quits on the course, like none of that's going to save you, right? There's always going to be dark and difficult moments, and on the race course and in life. And when you have that person that comes up behind you, if it's Mashonda, comes up behind me, I'm walking on the course and gives a pat on the back, say, hey, you got this. Go, let's go team, let's go Varlo. You got this, and keep going. That's what keeps you going. That's what's going to save your day. And it goes beyond life, right? That's our hope. It's beyond the race situations. Like whenever you wear the brand, you feel that voice in the ear that tells you to go further and that believes in you. When others may not believe, right? There's many others that don't believe, and it could be a race goal, it could be a life goal. But we want to be that brand that supports and believes in you.
I love that. I absolutely love all of that. Um, Now more than ever, especially in the times that we're experiencing, community is so important and it's so necessary. And so I just encourage those of you who are listening, if you are not in community, there are communities out there for you. Varlo may not be the community for you, but there are communities that you can tap into no matter where you are across the world. There is someone somewhere in your city doing a triathlon, and perhaps you start a crew so that you can have what you desire and need. I can talk to you and ask you so many questions, Ed. Like, I truly can. And I want to be mindful this season of my timing because I think I keep going over because I like to talk and I want people to keep coming back and listening. And so this is just part one. I know where to find you. But I also want to say, too, for those of you who might be watching this on video, there was a point where I thought I had unpinned myself and I didn't. So you'll see me probably talking versus Ed for the first couple of minutes of it. But don't worry, whenever you try, there's always going to be something that happens and you have to overcome it. So don't think that you've been doing triathlons for 10 years or 15 years and you got it all together. It's always going to be something to learn and a routine that you have to get over. And so I take that same philosophy with me as I'm doing this podcast because I struggle sometimes with the perfectionism and wanting it to be perfect, but I'm okay with my progress and knowing that you can prepare as much as you want to prepare, and there's always going to be a new element that you have to overcome. Every time you introduce something new, there's always going to be something that you overcome. And so, with that overcoming, what I want to ask, Ed, is you've been doing this sport for a very, very, very long time, at least 13 years, 14, 13 ish, 12, 13. Anyway, math doesn't have to math in triathlon because it doesn't equal up anyway. N plus one. So, N plus 10 is our math equation for today. What were some of your first funniest and mishaps that you now look back on to be turning points for you?
Um, so I would say learn to cycle, right? This comes back to apparel and I had gotten my first pair of bib shorts, not the bib shorts, cycling shorts with a chamois. Not I wasn't into the bibs yet. I still like the cycling shorts with the chamois. And I was out on the first bike ride and I felt like I was riding and riding. I was like, this is not so comfortable. And I was riding my buddy Jeff. He's the one that I mentioned and taught me how to ride and everything. I was like, Jeff, this is not so comfortable. Like, I don't know why. It's like, are you still wearing like underwear under this? I was wearing like boxers or something out there. He's like, what? You're wearing underwear underneath the chamois? I was like, yeah. I don't. I'm like, geez, that's why wouldn't you? And he's like, no, 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 you got to take those off. So I had to like go to a bathroom somewhere on the road, take off the underwear and like toss in the trash and then like finish my ride with just the chamois, shall we say. So I would say that's, a little bit of a apparel education, right? For your beginners, like don't wear underwear under your chamois pad. I did maybe 5 or 10 miles with it. It wasn't the greatest experience. And I'll say that's probably one of my funniest memories of, as you're going to get into this, the things you learn. It's an important tip.
And look, the things that he's learned has now turned into helping us have more comfortable rides with state of the art chamois. Well, thank you so much, Ed. We're going to get into what is called rapid fire because we don't let anyone leave the pod without going through the rapid fire situation. So, thank you for coming on and sharing about your experiences. I really loved, loved, loved you sharing about the Bicycle Coalition, Bicycle Youth, the Bicycle Coalition, the Bicycle Coalition Youth Cycling Program. Yeah. And Rails to Trails Conservancy. So be sure to look up those two organizations. Be sure to check out Varlo. And now we're going to get into this rapid fire. Hills. Do you prefer to climb hills, rollers, or flat straightaways?
I like hills. I always like hilly courses. Syracuse, Lake Placid. I enjoy my hills.
I figured that when you said both those things, I was like, oh, he likes to suffer. But to each his own, everybody has something. Favorite place to cycle?
I want to say favorite place. I cycled in Girona. That was my first time cycling in Europe. It was very cool. It was beautiful. I want to do more cycling in Europe, so it's an aspirational goal to cycle more in Europe. So I would say right now, but in general, right behind me, Lake Placid is my favorite place, just that's accessible. So I'll give those two answers.
Okay, Girona. I'm gonna have to look up Girona. That sounds fancy.
It's beautiful, Costa Brava. It's gorgeous.
What is your favorite aspect of multisport?
When I first joined, when I first started doing triathlon, I think what drew me to it is when you're racing, there's a mindfulness quality to it that is difficult to reach in any other activity, shall we say. Maybe yoga if you're actually actively meditating. But when I was doing it, when I was, stressed from work or whatever, there's always things going through your mind. You can't sleep or just like thinking about things. I found that only when you're racing that your mind has to be fully clear because if you're swimming, you better be thinking about swimming in open water because otherwise you might be going to the bottom or something. And then when you're biking, you're mindful of how your body's feeling. Are you drinking enough fluids? Are you eating? Same thing with running. Like, how am I feeling? Can I push further? I need to dial it back. If you're not mindful, then you're not going to be able to either finish or succeed. Well, if you let your mind drift into like work things and whatever, it's very difficult, right? So I found, especially during triathlon, when you're on that TT bike just in the bars and you're not thinking about cars, hopefully during races, you're having some open road where you don't have to worry about that. Those are the I think sensations that what drew me back to triathlon racing again and again. It was that opportunity of mindfulness.
I see that. I can see that. Swim, bike, run. Rank them in order of preference.
Currently, at the moment, I'll say run, bike, swim. Run, bike, swim. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite triathlon distance?
70.3.
Mm, okay. Favorite high cadence cycling or grinding it out in lower cadence?
Definitely high-ish cadence. I would say 85, 90.
Wetsuit or tri-suit?
Tri-suit, since we sell tri-suits, under your wetsuit, but definitely a wetsuit.
I was wondering how you were going to spin that one, and that's good. So that actually feeds into my next question that I was going to ask you. What is your current or all-time favorite Varlo collection?
Ooh, wow. That's a good one. I still really like the Barra collection. That's one of our earlier ones. We've had a redrop, but it's kind of like the floral pattern, the tropical floral pattern. I think named after the Barra region in Brazil. Saj actually has family there. There's a little backstory.
Hmm.
Fun fact there. But I love that collection. It's one of the earlier ones that I picked up and still have.
Okay. Now, do you pee on the bike or get off and take a proper pee break?
Oh, I can't pee on the bike. I physically can't do it and wouldn't want to do that to my bike.
No judgment in that of other people who might do it, and I don't like it. Ed, I don't like it.
No judgment. I wouldn't do that to my bike.
It's like, I mean, like, I can't, and I wouldn't do it to my bike. Like, there's some type of bike echelon society or something. Whatevs. No, just kidding. Thank you so, so much. We had this saying on Try Beginner's Luck, whenever you try, you always win. And I wholeheartedly believe that. Um, if you haven't started following us on social media, do so. We're on all the platforms, but definitely on Instagram. Be sure to like and share this episode. We are growing, and I just appreciate you all rocking with us. Throughout the summer, I tried really hard not to pay attention to the numbers, and I didn't. But I would get these really cool updates. And it's like, hey, people are still listening. And I would get so excited. And just shout out to so many of you who I met in person. That has been the thrill of my summer. And my time off is being able to be in the folds with y'all at different races and meeting you in person for the first time. So thank you for rocking with Try Beginner's Luck. Like, share, follow, tell your friends about us. And there's going to be some really cool things coming up in the pipeline that we'll be doing. So be sure to follow us so you can be in on it and not miss a beat. With that said, I got to remember how I close it. Like it's been so long and I don't really remember how to close my show. I think I say, okay, I don't know. I do know. Oh my gosh. Um, I said to remember to review. I guess we're just going to be out. Oh yeah, I got it. I'm Mashonda Miles, also known as Mashonda Shines, and we are out. Peace. Bye, everybody. It came back like riding a bike. Gotcha. You got that? Okay, we're gone for real. Bye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. We need your help so we can continue to try at TBL. So for more information on where you can find and subscribe to this podcast, visit www.trybeginnersluck.com. And don't forget, whenever you try beginner's luck, you always win.